We chose today's topic because nutrition plays a crucial part in supporting our overall health. We hope to empower you to make nourishing choices that enhance your energy and quality of life. We thought at this time of year, of course, everybody's focus is generally on health, and thought that this was an appropriate time to look at those changes that you may be already looking to make and offer some additional information and tips for those. So with that, I'll go ahead and introduce today's speaker. Marty Davy has been plant-based since 1980 and plant exclusive since 2002. After decades in the film and TV business, Marty decided to change her occupation and became a dietitian, earning a master's degree in nutrition and dietetics. She launched her own dietetics practice and developed a business as a nutrition contractor. That contract work included 7 years as a faculty dietitian assisting teens in lockdown learn culinary skills and build a school garden with an herbs BSA. Marty has produced over 80 cooking videos. Her early work as a nutrition researcher led her to be an intervention member for PCRM's GEICO study. She became a senior research team member, creating and implementing the New Soul study and the DG3 diet study interventions at the University of South Carolina. She just completed collaborating with the Food Revolution Network, developing curriculum for their plant-based coaching and certification program. Currently, she is an adjunct professor at Mercy and Pace University and maintains her faculty position with the Main Street Vegan Academy. Otherwise, Marty and her husband can be found kayaking in Yonkers or camping in some quiet spot. With that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Marty.
Okay, well, thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm going to jump into the slides so you can find out a little bit more on plant-powered, and we can get to the information. We have a lot of stuff to cover today, and I want to make sure to give you the best information I can, mainly because I'm a researcher. I see things from a lot of different perspectives. And if you have any questions about stuff at the end, I'll be happy to answer them in full, okay? Because I don't want to just say, oh, if you touch this or you eat that, the world's going to blow up. It doesn't. And this is our health empowerment webinar. That's me. And what Plant Powered Metro New York is about, it's about empowering people to make the best health decisions they can for their lives. And it's mainly based around nutrition, because what we see is we want to help people with chronic diseases bring down the issues that they have with them through nutrition. And we have a lot of different programs and events and things like that to help you be able to do that, like this one. All right, so here's today's agenda, and that is introductions. Oops, we did that one. Okay, we can click that off the list. And then we're going to talk about plant-based nutrition and how it prevents and reverses diseases. Then we'll figure out, okay, so what is this whole food plant-based thing? And then I want to make sure I give you some practical tips. I'm very practical. So I want to leave you with some nutrition label reading, and then I'm going to teach you how to make a very fast, super yummy dessert, which you can eat as much of as your little heart desires. So let's start with how whole food plant-based nutrition prevents and reverses disease. This is a little bit old. It's from 2020, 2021, but these are leading causes of death in the United States. Because I want to look at the big picture, like what is big going on, and then let's get a little bit closer to the things that we're dealing with. And what we see here, because it's from 2021, COVID has actually dropped down on this list. But the rest of them are pretty much all up there. So we're talking about heart disease, we're talking about cancers. There's nothing that they can do about unintentional injuries. If people fall off the ladder, they fall off the ladder. But then we talk about stroke, which is related to heart disease. And I'm not really going to talk too much about respiratory. Alzheimer's disease, which is related to heart disease and diabetes. Diabetes is the next one. And then really kidney disease. Being a dietitian, I see a lot of patients who have diabetes and they have kidney issues. So the first, I want to focus mainly on 3 disease states, but we'll bring in a couple of others. But the first one I want to focus on is elevated blood pressure in New York City. Let's see, what are we doing? okay? Where are we? And if you look at this map, this is all of the boroughs of New York. And where you have the darkest blue is where we have the most amount of people with high blood pressure. But as you can see, just about everywhere, except where we have, parks, we have at least 15 to 30, 23% of the folks are having high blood pressure. In our areas with the highest risk of elevated blood pressure, which is also called hypertension or high blood pressure, we see that it's 35 to 42%. So just about anywhere, we're going to have about a third of the people who have this issue. Of course, hypertension or high blood pressure is one of the precursors for heart disease. Another precursor would be obesity. And as we can see from this map, just about everybody is somewhere where we have about 30% or higher of folks that, and this is self-reported. This isn't that we went through, medical records. And people actually self-report a lot lower than what you'll find if you look at a medical record. So throughout the nation, we have an issue with obesity, with some places even having, 50% of the folks that are there are obese, which means chronic diseases will be following if they're not already there. Cardiovascular disease, when people talk about different demographics, what we can see is with cardiovascular disease, no matter what demographic you think you are in, if you are a white male, female, Hispanic, Black, Asian, at over 30% of the people in that demographic are going to have some touch with cardiovascular disease. And so we see that these chronic diseases they're rampant. And what can we actually do about them? Well, having done a lot of research, I find a lot of hope in whole food plant-based diets. So can we actually prevent these diseases? That was one of my first thoughts. I'm from a meat and potatoes Irish Catholic family from the wrong side of Cleveland, Ohio. So, my family had a lot of folks who had diabetes and heart disease and died at an early age. So this is really important to me. So I want to see the facts because I don't really care what you think. I want to know what's going on. And we, as researchers, if we can find a group of people who are kind of doing what we'd like everybody else to do, we go in and go, wow, what were you doing? And that's what the blue zones are. Some of you have heard about the blue zones. You may have seen the documentary that was on Netflix. And these are 5 different areas in the world that have the most amount of folks who are over 100 years old, and they're very well functioning folks. So because we're in the US, we are lucky that we have a group in Loma Linda, California. And so researchers went there to find out how does this actually work? They have some very interesting facts about their lifestyle. And one of the most important one is the one at the bottom, which actually is the basis of everything they do in their life, which is 95 to 100% of the foods that they eat are plant-based. So they aren't plant exclusive, but 95% of what they're going to eat is going to come from plant foods. And we see all this really great stuff. So researchers said, okay, we kind of get what you're doing, but how does it actually shake down to the risk of chronic diseases that are highest in the United States? So we did, there was an Adventist health study. This is number 2. We had one, we updated it. And the map that you see has different populations of folks that are Seventh-day Adventists. And so that was now we have a population that we can look at that actually is doing fairly well, and they eat and live in a way that takes away some of the issues we can have if we're just working with the general public. Like, almost none of them smoke, almost none of them drink alcohol. They generally avoid caffeine. And as part of their spiritual life, they are encouraged to eat a vegetarian diet. So researchers went in and said, okay, what do you guys eat? And we want to take a look and break that down into these people eat like this, and we'll figure it out into diets and how do each one of those affect different chronic diseases. So they broke the meal patterns into a vegan diet, which are folks that are plant exclusive. They don't eat any byproducts. They don't need any animal products at all. Then there were the lacto-ovo folks. They eat animal byproducts like eggs and cheese and milk and stuff like that. Then there were pesco-vegetarians. They ate the byproducts, plus they added in fish. And then there were the semi-vegetarians, folks that don't eat meat all the time, don't eat fish all the time, but they do eat it. And then there are the people who are like, hey, I eat it all, I'm happy. So great. So now we have these diet patterns. Let's see what happens to different health issues. If you look at this, what you see, if you look on the right-hand side, you see the non-veg. As people decrease the amount of animal products and increase the amount of plants, we see that their BMI, which is your body mass index, it is not the end-all be-all number about your weight, but it helps us begin to start seeing what's going on. We see that the non-veg folks are heading up towards obesity, and the only people that are at a healthy BMI are the folks who are vegans. When we look at diabetes, we see that about 7.5% of the folks that are eating pretty much whatever they want have type 2 diabetes, and it just keeps going down until you get to the vegans, and the vegans are more than half. It's your risk of getting diabetes is going to be cut in half. High cholesterol kind of has the same thing. It's almost 15% of these folks who are going to have high cholesterol, but when you go down to the vegans, they start, less and less and less. You cut it by 3 times. You cut your risk of high cholesterol by 3 times. Blood pressure is almost the same, except it's even higher. So the folks over here, non-veg, more than 20%, almost 25% of them are going to have high blood pressure. We go down and down and down until we get to the vegans, and they are about 7.2%. So we see it's really dramatic. It's not just a couple of points here and there. I'm going to show you this video. It's a short video. And Dr. Dean Ornish, if you don't know who he did the first study that actually showed that lifestyle could reverse heart disease and other diseases. Until this point, we were like, you're on maintenance. Whatever you are is kind of where you're going to be. But he showed something totally different.
We were able to show for the first time that heart disease could actually be reversed by changing diet and lifestyle. That instead of getting worse and worse, people could actually get better and better. Within a month, we found that the blood flow to the heart improved and it began to beat more normally. The chest pain went away in most cases. Within a year, even severely blocked arteries became measurably less clogged, and after 5 years, there was even more reversal, more improvement than after 1. And I think these findings are giving many people new hope and new choices that they didn't have before. We also found that men with early stage prostate cancer, that we could slow, stop, or even reverse the progression of early stage prostate cancer. It's still the only randomized trial showing that lifestyle changes alone can stop or reverse the progression of men with early stage prostate cancer. And so we looked into some of the mechanisms to help explain that. And we found that over 500 genes were favorably changed in just 3 months. And in fact, turning on the good genes that prevent these conditions, and turning off particularly the oncogenes that promote prostate cancer in men, breast cancer in women, colon cancer, and so on. We even found that telomeres, the ends of our chromosomes that control aging, can actually get longer. It's the only intervention, including drugs, that's been found to actually lengthen telomeres. So as our telomeres get longer, our lives get longer. And so in a simple way, we found that the more we look, the more we find to explain why these simple changes are so powerful. We tend to think that advances in medicine need to be a new drug, a new laser, something really high-tech and expensive. And what we've done in our studies is to use these very high-tech, expensive, state-of-the-art scientific measures to prove how powerful and how dynamic these very simple and low-tech and low-cost interventions can be. We were able to show for the first time that...
There we go. Okay, so that was really important. It really kind of shook the scientific world, the medical world, to say, no, we don't have to have people on drugs forever and ever. There are people that can reverse where they are. And this is a few examples of that. If you look at the top image on the left-hand side, it's got purple and red and yellow in it. Okay, so the red is the blood coming through an artery. The yellow is the cholesterol and the plaque and everything else that's gobbledygooking it up. That's a technical term, gobbledygook. So this person went on a whole food plant-based diet for 3 weeks, not 3 years, 3 weeks. And if you look at the image below, you will see that We have so much more red. We have so much more blood flow going through. It's really amazing. It was very, very dramatic. If you look to the right of that, you'll see reversal of coronary artery disease. Coronary artery is your main artery in your heart, and it's the one called the widowmaker. Because generally, if that thing gets clogged up and you have a heart attack, it's kind of the end of the story. This was a doctor who was at the Cleveland Clinic. He was at work. He had a heart attack. Luckily, he was at work. And they rushed him into the ER, took a picture. This was this picture of his coronary artery. And then he went on a whole food plant-based diet for 32 months. And the image on the right is what his artery looks like in less than 3 years. It's practically a new artery. It's really amazing. So we see how it helps with heart issues, but how does it work with kidney health? Well, as a dietitian, this is really important to me because I deal with a lot of folks who have kidney issues. It reduces the stress on the kidneys. Plant proteins, the chemistry of them, the biochemistry of them are easier to digest than animal proteins. I'm not going to go into why the biochemistry of that is because I won't get lost in it, but it's really amazing to me when we started to take apart the amino acids in there. This is how it worked. They maintain good kidney filtration, which is what you want. And it also gives you better hydration because plant foods in and of themselves have more water. I mean, think of watermelon. The increased fiber. Fiber is my favorite and I think the most important nutrient, and we are studying it so much right now. It decreases inflammation. Any chronic disease is going to start with inflammation, and anything you can do to bring that inflammation down is really important. It also increases the kidney's ability to create hormones that create healthy red blood cells. So that to me is really important for all my patients. This I'm going to show you this video. This is Dr. Neil Bernard, and I actually know Dr. Bernard pretty well because he's going to talk about a study that was done in 2003. When you're a researcher, you don't just do a study once, you do it over and over and over again, and you kind of tweak it to find out more and more about why it has the outcomes. I did the next rendition of the study. It's called the GEICO study. The people that we worked with was the Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, which is PCRM. And this is what we found out about diabetes.
And the second discovery came from looking inside the cell, especially the muscle cell. And the reason we look at muscle cells in particular is that's where glucose is going. That's where blood sugar is going. That's the fuel that powers your movement. You know about a person who's running a marathon? What are they doing in the weeks leading up for it? They're carbo loading. So they're eating pasta and they're eating bread to try to get that glucose into the cell for energy. And that is the problem in diabetes. Because glucose is there outside the cell trying to get inside. In order to get in, it needs a key, and that key is insulin. Now, what if I get home and I'm getting up to my front door and I take my key out of my pocket, I put it in the front door. Wait a minute, it's not working. And there's nothing wrong with my key, but I look in the lock, and while I was gone, somebody put chewing gum in my lock. So what am I going to do? Crawl in and out the window? No, I'm going to clean out the lock. Well, when a person has diabetes, their insulin key is not working. Why would that be? Why could insulin not signal this? What's supposed to happen is the glucose is supposed to enter into the cell. And glucose is the key that makes that happen. But the reason it doesn't happen, it's not that there's chewing gum inside the cell. What there is fat. Fat, little globules of fat. Now, I have to say, doctors hate words like fat. It's got one syllable. So we want to call it intramyocellular lipid. Intra means inside. Myo means muscle. Cellular means cellular. Lipid means fat. Intramyocellular lipid is fat inside your muscle cells, and that is what interferes with insulin's ability to work like a key to signal glucose coming in. Now, in 2003, the National Institutes of Health gave my research team a grant and said, let's test something completely different. Instead of limiting breads and all of these kinds of things, what if fat is the issue, what if we have a diet that has effectively no fat in it? Well, where does fat come from? It comes from two sources: animal products, animal fat, and vegetable oils. So we brought in 99 people, and we asked them to do two things: to really eat a bounty of food, and not worrying about quantity. We're not counting calories here. We are not counting carb grams or anything like that. What we're doing instead is we're setting the animal product aside, keeping the vegetable oils low. Very simple. Now, one of our participants was a man named Vance, and Vance's father was dead by age 30. Vance was 31 when he was diagnosed with diabetes. He was in his late 30s when he came to see us. And he said, this is not hard. Unlike every other diet he'd been on, we didn't care how many carbs he ate or how many calories or how many portions. If he was having chili, not a meat chili, it would be a bean chili, chunky vegetable chili. If he was having spaghetti, instead of a meat topping, it would be topped with artichoke hearts and wild mushrooms and chunky tomato sauce and that kind of thing. Very, very easy. Over a course of about a year, he lost 60 pounds. His blood sugar came down and down and down. And one day his doctor sat him down and said, Vance, I know you've had family members die of this disease, but as I look at your blood tests, you don't have it anymore. And can you imagine what that feels like, to have family members who felt this was absolutely a one-way street and to have this disease just turn around? And when I asked Vance's permission to tell you about his story, he said, make sure you tell everybody that my erectile dysfunction went away too.
Okay, so I love Dr. Bernard. He's really great. This book, if you haven't read, it's the China study. It's a very easy read. It's not like super zap, all this chemical blah, blah, blah research stuff. It was written by Dr. T. Colin Campbell, and it was the China study. It was done in China. Really huge, huge study. And he came up with 8 principles for food and health. Now, you can read through the rest of them at one other time, but I want to focus on number 7. And that is that nutrition that is truly beneficial for one chronic disease will support health across the board. It is like there is one diet to rule them all. And what we see is just simply by bringing in more plants and releasing yourself more and more of animal products, all of a sudden, all of these different chronic diseases begin to decrease. And why is that? Well, this is what the standard American diet is in calories. This research shows that 56% of what we eat is processed foods. So those are foods that are going to have more added fats and oils and sugars and refined grains. Refined grains, I'm going to show you that those are grains that don't look like they came out of the ground. They look like something else. So that's over half of what we eat is stuff that's been processed and comes in packages. And then 33% is basically animal foods. So that's meat, dairy, eggs, fish, seafood. One of the things I want you to realize about cholesterol, because people ask me, is cholesterol is made in your liver. Anything that has a liver, anything that stands on the ground, swims in the sea, flies in the air, has a liver. And that's where cholesterol comes from. We need some cholesterol. Your body makes all the cholesterol that you need. It only comes from animal sources. Plant foods, this is what's interesting. All the plant foods that we eat, okay, which would be, lettuce and sweet potatoes and radishes and fruits, all the different fruits, strawberries, blah, 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 is only 11% of what we eat. And half of that 11% actually only comes from one vegetable, potatoes, and generally in the form of French fries. So we can see that we have a long way to go, and maybe bringing in a little bit can help a lot. One of the things that I found important is how much nutrition can I get per calorie? It's kind of like, well, what's the nutrient bang for my calorie buck? Like, how much can I get? And because I want to be eating nutritious food, I know I don't look like it, but I'm actually over 22. And I want to eat things that are really going to extend my life and keep me healthy. So when I look at this chart, I see that vegetable oils are really useless. Refined sugar is useless. refined grains have a little bit of stuff in them. And there's not really a lot of stuff going on. There's not a lot of nutrition happening until you start going into raw nuts and seeds. And okay, there's that. And then you start doing fruits and legumes. By legumes, I mean beans, peas, lentils, black-eyed peas. I just had kidney beans, black beans, any of those kind of beans. And then we have the non-green, non-starchy veggies, which is like, lettuce and carrots and onions and garlic and all that stuff. And they have a lot. But when you get to those green leafy vegetables, like, I don't know if anybody out there loves collard greens. I love collard greens. They are amazing. And any kind of raw leafy greens, like you'd have in a salad, fabulous. So we looked at, okay, this is the chart of the standard American diet. We see that these are the nutrient dense foods, but how does that relate to a whole food plant-based nutrition thing? Okay, so if you took a nutrition class, the first class you talk about would be macronutrients. So we have 3 macronutrients. This is the first thing that your food digests into, and that's carbohydrate, fat, and protein. So when we're looking at the standard American diet, we see that mostly we're using refined carbohydrates, refined grains. A lot of people, when I say the word carbohydrate, they go, oh, I don't do carbs. Well, in a whole food plant-based diet, you're going to do a lot of carbs, like lettuce is a carb, and strawberries are a carb, and celery is a carb. All of these things are carbohydrates. And so in the whole food plant-based world, we're going to do mostly unrefined, looking like they come out of the ground. Standard American diet, you're going to have mainly saturated fat. When you hear the word saturated fat, I want you to think butter, because saturated fat is solid at room temperature. And that's a real easy image to keep in your head. Okay, I got it. When you're whole food, you're going to be using nuts and seeds and whole foods for your oils. We love fats. They are very good for you. You need them, but you need them not to be saturated. And when we're talking about protein, protein is going to mostly come from animals when we're talking about standard American diet. And we're going to talk about plants when you're having a whole food plant-based diet. The one thing you need to remember is any plant that comes out of the ground has protein in it. It's going to have different levels of protein, but you cannot eat a plant that comes out of the ground that doesn't have protein, because it needs protein to turn it into a strawberry, to turn it into an ear of corn or whatever else. This is my favorite nutrient. Sorry, I had to take this out so we can have this later. Fiber. Fiber is so important, but only about 5% of the people in the US get as much fiber as they need. I cannot stress to you how important fiber is. And one of my, fiber only comes from plants. So all this stuff that you see on the right-hand side of your screen, yep, it's all good. How much do you need? Because that's one of the things I always want to know is how much do I need of this stuff, and is it hard to get? Most Americans don't get enough fiber. You need around 35 to 50 grams daily. The dietary guidelines are going to say 25 because they want people to at least get to 25. I can tell you that about 95% of the patients I work with have between 5 to 10 grams of fiber a day. Fiber does so much for you. And when people tell me that they're trying to do weight loss, I always say, follow the fat and the fiber and forget the rest. That is because if you think about bringing down the fats from oils and jars and tubs and stuff like that in your life, and you increase the fiber in your life, you're going to go to the foods that are lower in calories, are more nutrient dense, and the weight will come off. I've done a bunch of research that actually shows that's true. High fiber foods have more water in them. They have prebiotics. A lot of people I know take prebiotics. They have it in there. They keep you full. They're low in fat, and they do not stress your kidneys. This is a study that was done about colorectal cancer. And it's a meta-analysis. And what they found was, and as you can see, there's a whole bunch of people they brought in. So this is a big study, is that for every 10 grams of fiber folks brought into their diet, they had a 10% drop in the risk of colorectal cancer. So if you were doing 10 grams of fiber and then you made it 20, you brought down your risk 10%. If you made it 30, you brought it down 20%. It was really, really dramatic. It was really important. Just by what you eat, and eating the stuff that you can see in those pictures is what does it. Why do I love fiber? Because I love my gut microbiome. This is a really exciting place for nutrition studies right now. And the thing I can tell you is that your brain, you have the gut-brain axis. They run along the same nerve. It's called the vagus nerve. So stuff that happens in your gut affects your brain and vice versa. And in fact, there's just been some studies coming out that there are brain cells in your gut. So we want to have a nice, healthy intestinal tract because we want to think better, because we want to feel better. And I'm going to explain very briefly how that works. I could spend an hour just on how the gut microbiome changes health. So as I said, folks, foods that are high in prebiotics, these fiber-rich foods, you eat them, and they help with a number of things. They help bring down inflammation, and they help because of the fiber. If you want to think of what is fiber, you can have two basic types. One is smushy, the other one is tough. So think oatmeal. Oatmeal has a lot of soluble fiber, and celery. So if you think about the oatmeal fiber, kind of pushes stuff through, it's kind of smudgy, and it can pick up a lot of cells we don't want in our gut, because stuff can come on your food. The other one, think celery, and celery helps move things through, but it also has this special stuff in it that I'm going to tell you about in a second. So, we want it to go through your gut biome, helps everything move, brings down your inflammation, and there's a special type of fiber that can actually help you take care of a leaky gut, and it is going to feed the intestinal microorganisms. And those types of foods, that's called resistant starch, that's potatoes and legumes, whole grains, all of those actually feed the intestinal bacteria in your colon. Why does that matter? Well, it matters because it ferments and makes this food called butyrate, short-chain fatty acid. And butyrate actually is a precursor for serotonin. So a lot of people with gut issues also have anxiety. And what we find is when they start eating more of these foods with heavy-duty fibers in them, their anxiety decreases. So what do we actually mean by whole food, plant-based nutrition? Like, what are the foods we're talking about here? Because I got to know what the foods are. Well, we want to eat whole plants as much as we can in the way that they look, as close as we can to the ground. Okay, so that's grains, nuts, fruits, vegetables, stuff like that. And we know that folks that eat that live longer. We want to avoid animal products such as meat, fish, dairy, poultry. And we want to do that because we can see you drink milk and your biomarker that we use for inflammation goes up. We also want to avoid processed and artificial foods because they just don't help you, right? I mean, we want to be eating nutritious foods, and we want to be avoiding added fats and sugars because, again, they feed on inflammation. The core food groups we're talking about are whole grains, that would be brown rice, oatmeal, barley, buckwheat, quinoa, all that stuff. Veggies, I think most people know what vegetables are, and all types of vegetables. We're not going to segregate squashes and potatoes over here. Beans, we're talking about chickpeas, lentils, black beans, soybeans, all those kinds of things. Fruits, I think people know what those are, and nuts and seeds. And we really want them raw because that's when they have all the goodies in them. Okay. And I cannot tell you how phenomenal walnuts are. All right. Could actually go on for 10 minutes about walnuts. This is our plant-powered plate. So as you can see, if we start at like 1 o'clock, 1 to 3 o'clock, if you look at it as a clock, you'll see grains. We really love whole grains. Then we have legumes, which is the beans, peas, lentils. And then that's where we also put the nuts and seeds because those are concentrated proteins. And then we have vegetables. All types of vegetables are great, and fruits. And then we also have water. because water is really important. Water runs your electrical system of your body, so we want to make sure that we're drinking enough water. Okay. Now you got a lot of information about food and the types of things we are looking for with whole food plant-based. Now let's see, how can we put this into action? Because I'm a dietitian. I'm the person that says, okay, let's figure out what we're going to do tomorrow. So I'm going to help you crack the nutrition label code, because when you first look at that thing, there's so much information and I find it's really like overwhelming. So this is a method that I have used in a number of studies to help people cull the foods that are healthier, follow the guidelines of the dietary guidelines for Americans, and also there's one thing we're going to add, but it'll get you to the best foods on the shelf. So if you're looking at cereals, this is going to help you find the best cereal. If you're looking at breads, that's going to help you do the best breads, or pasta sauce, or whatever it is that you're looking for. You're going to be able to use this information. Okay, it's very simple. And I have a little hand dance. If you want to do it with me, that's great. If you don't, that's okay. But I have to tell you that I've met people in grocery stores that I've been working with they're some of the participants in our research studies, and they've gone, yeah, Marty, can you tell me that, like, what's that hand thing that you do? And we do it in grocery stores. So it's called the Magic 3s and the Max 6. And we want to just look at 3 different things on a nutrition label. There's lots of information there. You may need it for other reasons, but to just kind of help you get started, we want you to look for the fat, the fiber, and the sugars. Okay, so what are we looking for? We're looking for, I have to go, we're looking for 3 grams of fat or less per serving, because a label is going to be per serving. You're going to see it says so much per serving. So we're looking to bring down the fats to less than 3 grams per serving. But we want lots of fiber, so we're going to say we want 3 grams or more, just when my fingers are up, for fiber. And then no more than 6 grams of sugar per serving. So 3 fat or less, 3 fiber or more, no more than 6 grams of sugars. I'm going to show you just a couple of labels. You can go to the store. I have done lots of grocery store tours, and we spend like 20 minutes just talking about this. But I'm going to show you a few different things and where it is on the nutrition label. So fat's going to be right at the top. Now this product, I forget what it is because I've been using it for so long, but this product has 4 grams of fat, which means it falls out of the parameters of what we're looking for. However, it has 7 grams of fiber, which is excellent because we want at least 3 or more. Excellent. And then the sugars are good because they are below 6. There's only 4 grams of them. One of the other things that I use this for is when I'm traveling. And, sometimes I have driven through blizzards, and you get to Billy Bob's pretty good gas station, and you're starving, and you're just trying to figure out what can I eat that would be the healthiest thing. And that's where I find this is really helpful for me. These are some things that you have to look for. These are Sun Chips. Everybody tells me how fabulous Sun Chips are. But I have to be honest with you. When I buy a little bag of Sun Chips, I do not count the chips. But the serving size says 16 chips per serving. That's one of the things you need to look at, is what is the serving size, and does it make sense for you? What we find with the Sun Chips is that it's double the amount of fats that we're looking for. There are 6 grams. And it doesn't have that much dietary fiber. There's only 2 grams of that. And the total sugar is good. So might this be better than, having some potato chips? Maybe. But this gives you a way to kind of check that out. This is a better product than this one, because we don't expect you to change everything in your life in one day. This is something else you have to watch for. This is a salad dressing. It's liquid, so it's not going to have a lot of fiber in it. Salad dressings are very sneaky. they will have a lot of fat in them. This one has 13 grams and it's an organic. We all go, yay, it's organic, must be fabulous for me, but it has 13 grams of fat. You can see that and know it's true because the first ingredient is canola oil. So dietary fat's not going to have much because it's a liquid. Okay, so you can find salad dressings that are very low in fat and are not going to have much fiber because they're a liquid. And the sugars are also good. And the sugars are good in this too. This is the last thing I want to show you because people always say, oh, I did this thing because it's vegetarian. All right, so within our parameters, we see this is 10 grams of fat. That's a lot. It's not just a little bit. And the dietary fiber, yay team. But we still have this big thing of fat going on, which can be a problem with heart disease and diabetes. And the sugars are good. This is the last thing I want you to look at. And that if you go to the fiber and you go up 2 spaces, you'll see where it says sodium. I want to make some stuff easy. So I'm just going to say the 3 of them. But if sodium is an issue for you, you want to have around 400 milligrams of sodium per serving. And this is 1,230. So it's really high. That's another issue with these processed foods. Okay, so what could you eat tomorrow? That's what I want to focus on. Well, for breakfast, you could have oatmeal with berries, and make it with plant milk. Could be soy, could be hemp milk, a bunch of different milks. You could have toast with nut butter and bananas and sprinkle of cinnamon. For those of you who have very busy lives and are running out the door, I tell you this works really well. It tastes great. I can run out the door with it. For lunch, you could have a salad. It's going to have some chickpeas and oil-free dressing. Actually, I'm a big balsamic vinegar girl, so that's what goes on my salad. You could have different soups like lentil soup, black bean soup, vegetable soups, minestrone soups. A lot of different soups out there. And then a tuna salad sandwich. I bring this up because this is one of our most requested recipes is this chickpea spread. It is so yummy. And I'm going to show you where you can find it in just a second. Dinner, baked potato topped with beans and salsa, especially sweet potatoes. Awesome. Brown rice, stir fry, and you could have edamame, you could have tofu on it, you could have some other bean that you really like, or just make a bowl. We all eat, like there's lots of restaurants that have bowls. You have a grain, you have a bean, you have a bunch of veggies, and then you have a sauce. And for snacks, you can have fruit and ice cream, which I'm actually going to show you how to make ice cream. Here are some little tips. You can go through them. I'm just going to kind of slide through them, but I'm going to tell you the ones that I think are really important to start with. If you do not eat beans at all, start with 1 tablespoon. Okay, just start with a tablespoon, throw it on a salad or throw it into a burrito, or I don't know, there's all kinds of things you can put it on. And you just want that because you are going to be training your gut microbiome that now I'm going to be bringing in these starches, and it's going to take a little time for your body to get used to it. So start small. One of the other important things is that you can buy frozen foods. They're just fine. Use canned beans. If you're like, I'm not going to cook my beans, that's okay. Just make sure you rinse them really well. So these are pictures of some of my favorite lunches. And these are some of my favorite dinners. And you can make a really nice baked sweet potato fry. We have a recipe for that. This is really important because a lot of people are like, okay, I'm in. I'll try something. I'll do a couple of things this week. Excellent. Where do I start? Forks Over Knives has a gazillion recipes on it. Any of these places are going to have it. And we have our own recipe app, which has a lot of our recipes on it. And we're actually revamping a lot of our recipes and making them even simpler. I really like having recipes that you can find everything in your local Piggly Wiggly. That's a grocery store down in South Carolina. And I like stuff that you can buy just about anywhere. And we have a few things that are a little bit, we might not be able to find, or they're not as common because you're not used to them. But we're going to be revamping that. And we also, there's so many places where you can find stuff. And Forks Over Knives is also a great place. Okay. I can't see you guys, but I'm imagining that there's a lot of people out there who like ice cream. I'm just imagining. So let's make ice cream in 3 minutes. Okay. So I'm going to go flip through these and then I'm going to show you. I'm going to go tilt down my camera. Make sure you're there. Okay, good. We're going to make ice cream in 3 minutes. Here is my mini food processor. You can do a blender. I mean, you know, if you have something to mash stuff with, you can even do it with that. Takes a little longer. Here I have a banana. What I do with the banana is I sliced it and then I put it in my freezer for about an hour. Okay. Then I'm taking cocoa powder. This is not cocoa mix. This is cocoa powder. Okay. And I'm going to take a little over a teaspoon and I'm going to put it in my food processor. This is actually a stick blender and it's something's attachment that comes with it. Okay. And okay, I got it done. Life's good. And now I'm going to mute myself because this is really loud. Okay, I could keep going for another minute or so, but let me show you what this looks like. Because I had to make a bunch of it yesterday for a demonstration I did in a high school in South Bronx. It looks like this. And it's all creamy. And I had this in the freezer for a little while. So it needs about 5 minutes to thaw out. But even if I only did it for like 10, 15 seconds, you can see this comes out looking like soft serve. And if you want, you can put it in your refrigerator, in your freezer. I love chocolate. I just have to say I love chocolate. For about 20 minutes after you make it, and it's going to come out. This has been in there for a while. And it will come out just a little bit firmer, like a real ice cream. And it is super yummy. Okay. So let's wrap up. Your body is all connected, right? Everything you eat affects every single cell in your body. So what you eat for this is going to help with that. And it's going to help with that. And it's going to help with that. So you can do this and you can feel like that. Thank you all very much. And do you guys have any questions?
Thank you so much, Marty. I loved that demonstration at the end. I think I'm going to have to go home tonight and give that a try. It looked really good. So thank you.
Yeah, and we also made it with a little peanut butter in it. It was like a Reese's cup. You can also, if you don't like chocolate, I still love you, even if you don't like chocolate. You can leave the cocoa powder out and you could put in mangoes. We made mango, we made blueberry, we made strawberry. It was so good.
I love it. Thank you. That sounds delicious. Okay, so we do have some time for some questions, so we'll just get through as many as we can. And if it's okay with you, Marty, I'll just read them to you and you can give us quick answers. So very first question from Shannon came in and said, I'm being told that adding turmeric and curcumin are helpful for helpful anti-inflammatories. How much in a supplement is the correct dosage? And if I add it to food, how do you determine the effective amount?
Okay, turmeric is really, really strong. So you only want about 1/8 of a teaspoon a day. And I sprinkle it on my salads. And then if you really want to amp up what it does, just pour on a little black pepper. You don't have to have a lot. Like if you don't like black pepper, you just need a little bit. But I'm telling you, this pumps up the action of this 300%. So you only want a very little bit of turmeric and just do turmeric. This is cumin and You can have curcumin, or you can just use cumin itself. It's a super yummy, yummy spice. In fact, this morning I just made black bean sweet potato burritos, and we put a little bit of turmeric on there and put some cumin on there, and it's so good. So I'm a dietitian. I opt for real. Okay, next question.
I love it. Next question is asking you to please repeat the amount of sodium per serving.
Sure. Yeah. You're really looking for 400 milligrams per serving. Okay. That'll get you on and if you're not there yet, if you're just starting, okay, like get yourself down to 600 milligrams per serving, because you're going to be training your taste buds. And I know that it takes 3 weeks actually to train your taste buds. So, bring it down and bring it down. And also, do not salt your foods after you cook it. Because if you salt your foods when you cook it, it'll disperse over the entire thing. The other real trick, I'm not going to be able to show you this, but the other thing that we did in a study is we did a salt taste test. So we took table salt, then we took Celtic salt, kosher salt, Himalayan pink salt, and people tried them. And you realize that with kosher salt, anything but table salt, you can add probably half as much, and you're not going to be missing that much flavor simply because they are so concentrated, but you're not getting any more sodium. So that to me was kind of cool. I'm not getting any more sodium, but these packed flavors are giving me more.
I love it. That's a great tip. I've got a question asking about adding beans that you mentioned, getting used to getting beans into your diet. It just says, when saying 1 tablespoon of beans, is that 1 tablespoon before or after cooking? 1 tablespoon doesn't seem like much.
It's not very much, but if you haven't eaten beans at all, and especially if you have any kind of gut issues, add a tablespoon. Or you could do this. This is 1/8 of a cup. This is 2 tablespoons. And I've had IBS patients where they have a lot of problems with it. So we start really small, and you figure out what you want to add it to. You could even add it to a cream soup, like cannellini beans. You can mash them up, or you can put it in a blender, mash them up, add a little soup to it, little soup to it, little soup to it, and it'll turn kind of creamy, and you won't really taste the texture if the texture is an issue. And you'll also get the beans, and it'll be spread out among your entire bowl of soup.
I love that. So you could use it kind of like a thickening agent. Would that make the soup thicker?
Yeah. Oh, if you want to thicken gravy and make it creamy, make a paste with walnuts.
Ooh.
Cup of walnuts, half a cup of water. And you put that in, it creams everything right up. You're getting fabulous fats. Excellent.
Sounds delicious. I've got a question from Heidi. She said, I missed how much cocoa powder went in a 1 slice banana for the ice cream. Can you remind us?
For 2 bananas, I generally put in a tablespoon. For 1, I put in about 1.5 teaspoons. I really like a good chocolatey flavor. Okay. I use a dark chocolate. So a dark chocolate. You'll see there's some that are called extra dark cocoa powder. That's mine.
I love it. Also from Heidi, she's wondering where she can find the tuna chickpea spread recipe.
Oh, it should be, if you download the app, then it should be on the app. If you can't find it, tell us, we'll get it to you. It's not a problem.
Okay.
There's also one that's kind of like it on Forks Over Knives. Of course, we want you to use ours.
Perfect. And I'm making a note here. Maybe I can get that recipe from you or find it on the app so we can send it out after the presentation.
Yeah, try it on the app. I would just, because I thought I saw it there. And I just, so I'll try to remember to look again, but I want to make sure that you get it.
Perfect. Next one is just asking your thoughts as a nutritionist on the 17-hour diet for cancer patients.
Can you tell me, Cindy, a little bit more about the 17-hour? Is it kind of like an intermittent fasting? Is that what they're talking about? Something like that? I'm not sure.
That I'm not sure of either. So if the person who asked that can just add a follow-up, I will try to scroll down and get it.
Okay, cool.
But we'll see what we can do there. So
yeah,
we'll move
let's
on.
another question, then we'll come back to that one.
Okay, perfect. Next one is just suggestions for dinner guests that aren't vegan. So if you've gone to a vegan diet, how can you make dinner for those guests that are not vegan?
Okay, one of the things that I do is I will make, depending on what you like, I will always do pasta. So I get a whole grain pasta, and I just take regular, like a crushed tomatoes can, and I add all kinds of herbs. I'll do basil, oregano. If you think blueberries have antioxidants, you don't know nothing until you've met oregano. And I'll put sage and thyme in it, and I put it in a big jar and I shake it. And that's usually my pasta sauce. And it's really yummy. And then I will also, I put a lot of veggies with it. So I have onions and garlic and mushrooms. And then I'll add either cannellini beans or, yeah, usually I add cannellini beans. Because those are pretty easy for people to eat. And then if they don't want to eat them, they can move them over to the side. But I know that there's a good decent amount of protein in the pasta. And then I have a couple of different dishes. I learned how to eat in France. I learned how to cook in Ohio. And so we'll have a nice salad, and then I'll get very sneaky and I make chocolate pudding out of silken tofu.
Love it.
Just you can go online. I think it only has 4 ingredients. It has cashew butter, chocolate chips, tofu. I'm trying to think, I don't even think I add another and then no, it doesn't even have salt in it. There's something else in it. I can't remember all the time. Oh, and vanilla. Yeah, I put in about a teaspoon of vanilla.
Oh, good. We did get the follow-up on that question. So it is the 17-hour fast diet. So 17-hour fast from dinner to the next day's first meal every day.
Okay, so if you can do that, that's great. A lot of people can. A lot of people can. One of the things I really, especially if you're dealing with weight management, is to set yourself a 4-hour window for gut rest between each meal, and at least 12 hours between the last meal of the day and the first meal of the next day. So that's basic intermittent fasting. If you can do 17 hours, that's great. Some people have to work into that because their blood sugar hits too low. Like they get to hour 13 and 14 and their blood sugar is a little low. So just kind of watch yourself. And if you need something, I always say, if you don't feel good, if you're super hungry, eat. But there's a difference between I'm just used to snacking and I'm really hungry. So I think that's always a good idea. It gives you a gut rest and it gives your body a rest so it has time to repair.
Perfect. We do still have a lot of questions, but we want to be respectful of your time. So if it's okay, I am going to get the rest of these questions jotted down, and I will send out resources from today's meeting and then any others that I can find to answer some of these questions. And then I'll also look to them for future webinars as well.
Yeah, and if there's 3 or 4 people asking the same question, you can send it to me. I will answer it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for offering that.
Oh,
So
yeah.
thank you. And I will follow up and add that to our follow-up email as well. So everybody gets all the answers, and I will hopefully get to all of those. So thank you.
Great. So everybody buy a banana.
Perfect. Thank you. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. There we
Good.
go. And we'll close out. So just want to again thank you, Marty, for all of your time today and for sharing those great tips and helping us understand, what a plant-based diet looks like, and also getting those opportunities to get more fruits and veggies into our diet. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys have a great evening.
Okay, thanks again. So we'll go ahead and just close out today's session. I just wanted to remind everybody about our bispecific antibody guide. It's a great resource that was recently developed by HealthTree and reviewed by myeloma specialists. This guide simplifies the science behind bispecific antibodies, a cutting-edge therapy option. It provides a clear overview of how bispecifics work, their potential benefits, and the latest advances in research, with practical details on administration, side effects, and comparisons to traditional treatments. This guide empowers myeloma patients and their care partners to make informed decisions about their treatment journey. As you leave today, again, I'd appreciate you taking the 2 to 3 minute survey about your experience for today's event. This helps guide our future webinars and helps me understand what it is that I can do to help our community the most. So please do take that time to take that survey if you're able. Here are just a few of our upcoming events. On January 23rd, our Black myeloma health community will be talking about maintaining oral health during cancer treatment and beyond. February 4th, we'll have our second bi-monthly blood cancer financial Q&A. This was a huge success with our last one in December. You have the ability, once you've registered, to add questions ahead of time, which Diana will do her best to answer. Please keep those to financial questions. Any questions for questions about health and different things like that, if you want to send those to me with my email address at the end of today's webinar, I'm happy to find resources for you. And again, that will help guide our future webinars. Lastly, on February 7th, we're going to look at how the BCR-A and other gene changes influence multiple myeloma risk. This is a new study that has just come out that is showing a link in some patients between BCR gene changes and multiple myeloma. So important for patient family members to know about that potential risk. We have many more virtual and in-person events in the works, so stay tuned. The link to sign up for any of these events and many more is found at the bottom of the screen and will also be sent out with the follow-up email. I'd like to again thank our sponsors, Adaptive, AbbVie, Genentech, Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, Regeneron, and Sanofi. Before we go, I wanted to highlight the Track My Disease feature in HealthTree Cure Hub. Once you've connected your medical record, the Track My Disease feature provides you with the ability to gain one-of-a-kind access to your health information, encompassing lab results, genetic profiles, and treatment histories, offering you invaluable insights into your own medical journey. On the screen, I have a link to sign up for the HealthTree Cure Hub, along with the email address of our amazing patient navigators who are available to help you create an account and connect your records. I'll also, of course, include this in the follow-up email. And finally, just want to say thank you once again for helping us build our multiple myeloma community. I've added my email to this slide. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions about HealthTree or any of our programs. I really appreciate all of you for joining us today, and I hope you have a wonderful day.